And as mentioned, world leaders have arrived at the G7 summit in Canada, and the topic of AUKUS has already been raised. Joining me now is former Labor Senator Stephen Conroy. Stephen, good to see you. Donald Trump has held a bilateral meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, where they were asked by reporters in Canada what is happening with AUKUS. I'll just replay you what was said here.
Yeah, we're proceeding with that. It's a really important deal to both of us. I think the President is doing a review. We did a review when we came into government, so that makes good sense to me. But it's a really important...
We're very long-time partners and allies and friends, and we've become friends in a short period of time.
So, Stephen, some positive indications there in regards to the AUKUS pact.
Well, I think the review, as Keir Starmer said, is being done by the British as well. And they found that it is worthwhile for their security to keep pushing ahead with AUKUS. The Americans have started a review. Obviously, Australia will want to press the case that this is good for America, not just good for Australia. We're contributing a significant amount of money to ensure that they get their production of Virginia-class submarines up to a higher standard than it currently is. And we're also, in the same way the UK is, one of America's most trusted and reliable allies. So I think the case for AUKUS is overwhelming, but I accept that President Trump is mercurial would be a polite word, and he's got some hawks that are very concerned about the China-Taiwan issue.
What do you expect will come out of this meeting between the US President and Anthony Albanese tomorrow?
Well, look, unfortunately, there's a whole range of issues outside of AUKUS that will be raised, I'm sure. I mean, firstly, the trade barriers on aluminium and steel, or the general trade barriers that is proposed for all Australian goods. I mean, we need to press the case that this is not the way a reliable friend and ally behaves towards its friends and allies. Then, obviously, AUKUS, defence spend. And then, of course, lurking at the moment behind the scenes is the President's statements that he wants to change the pricing of medicines in Australia. And also he's working with the tech giants to try and ensure that Australian sovereign ability to protect children from harm. These tech giants have created something as addictive as cigarettes and gambling. And they want to ensure that their profits keep going at the expense of children and Australian citizens. So Donald Trump is attempting not to export democracy to the world, but to export the MAGA interests and look after his own corporate supporters in America at the expense of Australia's sovereignty.
Acting Prime Minister Richard Marles says Australia would be drawn into a US-China conflict and would play a key role if a war did break out. But Australia is not at risk of being invaded by China, he says. What's your reaction to that?
I think Richard is simply stating the obvious. Australians know that we provide port to American vessels. They flock down to see them whenever they're open for inspection. They know that we have a rotation of American troops in Darwin. That's been well publicised. Probably not as well understood is a couple of our facilities that are joint bases and have been since Ken Beazley made them joint bases back in the 80s. And Pine Gap in particular is vital to world security. It provides intelligence, it provides all the satellite feed for about half the day to our G5 partners. And so if the Chinese were to get engaged in a conflict, they would want to cause the US to not be able to have access to roughly 12 hours a day information satellite coverage in our region, which would significantly reduce the capacity of America or Australia to be able to maintain an eye on what the Chinese are doing. So Pine Gap is a facility that will probably be targeted by the Chinese, whether or not Australia were directly participating in a conflict between the US and China. So I think, unfortunately, Richard is just stating what is a fact. And I think it's a healthy development that the governments and the opposition want the Australian public to know the way that our defence systems work.
We've got 30 seconds left, but Matt Canavan was on the program earlier and he asked the important question, if there is this certainty that Australia would be involved in the conflict, why this resistance to dramatically increase defence spending?
Well, there is no certainty that we'd be involved in a conflict. The Americans have never stated absolutely that they will be involved in defending Taiwan. So I'm not sure what conflict Matt is referring to. Australia has maintained a position that we want to encourage China not to invade Taiwan, but we've never made a commitment to participate in any conflict there.
Stephen Conroy, good to see you. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.